The Bible said Simeon was in the temple, and he said he moved by the Spirit when the child came into the temple. Nobody told him. The Holy Ghost himself came to announce to him and to carry him to the temple. He said that thing you and I were watching for has come. Meanwhile, many others didn't know about Jesus until he died. In fact, they crucified him. The same Jesus that was born without announcement, the Holy Ghost told somebody else that the Messiah has come. And he carried him. He said, now my eyes have seen the salvation of God. Because that's all he was praying for. Other people had the title of Sanhedrin. They didn't know Jesus. So they were religious people. They became mighty in church. That's why that a man is in church does not mean they know him in the spirit. How can you be a member of the Sanhedrin? You are supposed to be an elder. We now discover that an elder in the spirit is not necessarily an elder in church. Because when you are an elder in the spirit, your age is light. But most times when you are an elder in church, your age is time. Even scientists know that there's something called light years. Light years, I won't go into science. But believers who were supposed to be rabbis and scholars arrested Jesus and crucified him. How come they didn't recognize him after 33 years? Whereas somebody else recognized him after 8 days. This person who recognized him after 8 days was not part of the church leadership. But in the spirit, he was a chronicler. He knew when Jesus was conceived. He knew when Jesus was born. And when Jesus was born, the Holy Ghost had to escort him to the temple and say the Messiah has come. And while he was celebrating, political leaders didn't know. Because that man had a burden. His burden was that the Messiah must come. And so when the Messiah came, we discovered that Mary was not the only person pregnant. We discovered why Mary was pregnant physically, Simeon and Anna were pregnant spiritually. Because they had to birth the child spiritually. And the moment the process was completed, the child came, Jesus was summoned. They had to call all his parents. And so the same way they called his physical parents, that was how they called his spiritual parents. Mary and Joseph thought they were his only parents. The Holy Ghost said, relax. You were only containers that carried him. Those who truly bettered him, they travailed in prayer. Because as soon as Zion travails, she brings forth her children. These are the real parents. So the Holy Ghost himself had to invite Simeon and say, your child has come. And when he came, without introduction, he knew exactly who was. And he carried him up and began to prophesy. Encounters respond to those who bear the burdens of God. Encounters are not a fluke. They are created. And so when a man becomes a candidate of encounters, he begins to prosecute the purposes of God on the altar. When you find that man praying, many times he forgets to pray for himself. He is actually overwhelmed by the burdens of God. Lord, what about Ghana? Lord, what about Accra? Lord, what about this generation? You promised our fathers this is what you will do. Why is the darkness still here? And you find that man praying. Sometimes they look miserable, as if their life does not count. You may actually be judging them in the flesh and say these ones are not relevant. But in the spirit, they are the real captains of that generation. Because the salt of the earth is not every believer. The salt of the earth is the believer that is able to bet the purposes of God. Because the reason God called them salt is because they preserve the earth. You are not just walking on the earth without preserving the earth and you call yourself a salt. That's the title. The reality is not with you. And so the second law of encounters is the law of bodies. And you'll be shocked that in a congregation of 5,000 Christians, sometimes only 3 persons have had encounters. Only 3 persons. And you are wondering, how come? What kind of Christianity? How come you have been without seeing God? And so all you know about God is the story you were told. You are a motivated person. You are not a believer. Because those who know God, they know him by experience. He said, this is life eternal, that you may know him only through God. How come you are comfortable that all you do is go to church and come back? And then they are looking for you in the register of light. They've never seen you appear. And then you are hoping that one day you will change your generation. No. Commanding your generation is not a gift. It's a trust that is given to those who are spiritually responsible. You know, genuine Christianity is lacking. In the days of the fathers, when two people meet and they talk, as they live there, they go into fasting. Because what the other person will tell you, you will lose your sleep. So when we meet, different kinds of fasting begin. 40 days fasting. I fasted, there was a period when I fasted for 5 years. Every day, 6 to 6. I was hearing things that were blowing my mind. What kind of, you mean I will also walk on this same word that Paul the apostle walked in? Because the brother looked at me and said, bro, is this how we are going to end? Only having the title of Christians? Whereas while Paul was walking the earth, he said, I knew a man many years ago. He was carried to the third heaven. He went to Hades. He said, John went to a place. He heard things. He wanted to write it. They said, don't write it. They said, these ones are not, it's not a news. It's for those who come up. I heard things that made me went mad. He said, Jesus told his 12 disciples, you will sit with me on 12 thrones to judge the 12 tribes of Israel. He said, are we just going to end up with the title of Christians? But when I left that place, the fasting began. I ended it 5 years later because I refused to be normal. I didn't know what to do, but I knew it was a sin to eat every day, to sleep every day, and to drink every day. And as that fasting was going on, the spirit realm opened like a book. And I discovered a man is not yet a Christian until he has taught reality. Because in the realm of God, you are not a Christian by title. You are a Christian because you are a witness. And so if you don't represent anything in the spirit, that thing you are calling yourself is a joke. The spirit can still mess you up. They will tell you, who are you? What do you represent? Because we are actually called the ecclesia. That means we are representatives. We are like government officials, legislators. When we gather like this, we are not church members. We are citizens and legislators. So when we point you, we shouldn't know you after your name. We should know you after the constituency you represent in the spirit.